Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks. My name is Charlie Sardelli, and as always, I'm here with
Jameson Amaros.
Oscar Ibarra.
And guys, thank you so much for joining us during the holidays, taking time out of your day to watch us. We're just three Colorado realtors with Fathom Realty out here talking about real estate and enjoying good bourbon.
Hell yeah.
And I'll tell you guys what, as happy as I was to have those Old Elk bottles, I'm excited to move away and get some more
Variety.
in our life, right?
They were good bottles.
We're going to spice it up a little bit.
They were good
Yes.
bottles.
Spice it
And
up.
guys, don't forget, you can find us on YouTube at Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective. We drop our audio for the podcast every Friday, and video comes out normally anytime between Monday and Wednesday. But we have more than just this podcast on there. We have community spotlights, fun places to eat, new build home tours, stuff like that, and more coming your way. But guys, first off, what I want to talk about is we hit a pretty as Jameson dies today.
Yep.
We hit a pretty significant milestone.
We're all going to die.
We're all
You got Nicole over there.
I want to take the time just to say
Merry
to
Christmas to
everybody who listens, watches this podcast, thank you guys so much for all the love and support. We hit a phenomenal milestone for Real Estate Served on the Rocks, and we have over now 1,000 downloads for this podcast, and that's just on one platform alone. On YouTube, we're regularly reaching over 6,000 viewers an episode with, between views and stuff like that. And you guys are watching it. Like, it's not even like it's 2 minutes in. We're getting 30 minutes of watch time on this. And
That's awesome.
yeah, right.
Thank
so guys, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's been such a cool journey, for me as a producer and a real estate agent to be working with these guys, learning and helping you guys learn while I'm learning. It's not only been an honor, but it's been one of the most fun things that I've done.
Hell yeah.
No,
It's been awesome, man.
and I mean, thank the viewers, but thank you guys. I'm proud of all of us for sticking to it. I mean, it literally came out of a conversation at Topgolf.
Right.
What did we
This guy
say?
was
top 1%, I think.
This guy
Yeah,
was
that's what I was gonna say. It's
adamant. Like, we need to talk. We need to film this. And I remember JC and I were like, I was like, really?
Well,
And JC was like, well, we can make it happen. And Jameson's like, yes. And then it didn't happen just then, but then he brought it up again, and it happened.
yeah.
And then we had that. We interviewed some weird dude.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm pretty sure Charlie and I can figure this out. And then Charlie's like, let me figure this
Let me
out.
cook, bro.
Yeah. I want to put a flashback of the fucking
The first episode.
the whiteboard.
Oh my God! I mean, it
The
was
whiteboard, if you
it was
were there
Charlie
for-
doing this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or this, or
And we were in
talking to
we were in
mic.
that little cramped office.
Yeah,
And Charlie's over there with like a old school like laser pointer, like, okay, next topic, guys. Okay, next topic.
I kept on
Guys.
tapping on the mic. My eyes were everywhere but the camera.
But I mean, it's so cool to see the growth, and again, just the structure of the podcast. To the point where we have companies sending us bottles
Yeah.
to try.
That was really cool.
We're extremely lucky, and we have some big things coming down the line for you guys in the future. We're gearing up to do some special stuff. So stay tuned, keep watching.
Did
guys.
you tell him yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already
yeah.
told them that. Yeah. We're gonna keep it a secret
Yeah.
from you because
yeah.
it's,
We don't want to jinx it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But really cool stuff in the works in the background.
Yeah, I got
for
a
you
text
guys.
message from somebody today, family member from way out, lives in Connecticut. He's like, hey, just wanted to drop a line. Like, I've been watching a lot of your podcasts. You guys are absolutely amazing. You're doing some great work. And I was like, oh, sweet.
Awesome.
From
It's
Connecticut,
awesome,
man.
right?
It's cool.
It's
cool.
It is. And
My
just,
mom says she loves me.
Right. I was gonna say it's like shout out grandma.
Yep.
Shout
Grandma
out to
Glennon, thank
my
you so
mom,
much. She watches
grandma.
every
Yeah.
episode. But guys, today, honestly, it's fitting for Jameson's cough and little stuffiness that he has going on. The
bullshit.
The bourbon or the whiskey that we're gonna be trying today is from Old Forester. It's from their Whiskey Row series. It is their 1920 Prohibition Style whiskey, and it's actually fitting because last week was the 90th.
Yeah, we're celebrating the 90th anniversary of the repeal of Prohibition. And
For those of you that weren't alive back then, in 1920, it was when the U.S. outlawed.
They thought it was a good idea to keep
Alcohol.
the one
It
thing,
was
take
the-
away the one thing that kept the people civil.
Yep, exactly.
right, and the Great Depression caused it to repeal, and
Yep.
politics.
Yep.
I mean, hell, we wouldn't have NASCAR if it wasn't for Prohibition.
No, we would
know?
not.
So
So, Oscar, tell us a little bit about Old Forester. I know this is Old Forester is a company that you hold near and dear, and you
Yeah.
said that this is one of your bottles, your go-tos.
yeah, so this bottle is one of the few bottles that Gabe and I used to drink.
Oh,
and
okay.
he used to love this 1920. He said it was dessert to him. So it's 115
I'm gonna
proof.
pour it out while Oscar's talking.
But it's good.
Hold
and
on,
we'll
hold
talk
on.
about
Repeat that proof for the listeners.
115. We left with the last bottle being 80 proof. So I figured we'd kick it up a notch. 2, Prohibition is the anniversary, 90 years since the repeal, and it's medicinal. So Jameson being sick just all ties it in.
Yeah, when he says it's medicinal, it says it on the label.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So back when Prohibition happened, it was the Volstead Act of 1920 that allowed these distilleries to keep distilling. But people were dying after Prohibition because people were drinking tainted moonshine. Mm-hmm. So thousands of people were dying. And obviously we were going through the Great Depression, and President Roosevelt said, let's stop.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think safety was the biggest concern, but what's always demanding in politics, money, right? So they figured bringing alcohol back, it would create jobs. And, you know, because bars were, you know, they weren't making money. People were drinking tainted moonshine, dying. So he spun it and ran on that. And that helped him be elected. And then they repealed Prohibition. So it's been 90 years since then. They started with 3-2 beer and wine. But it happened. So on the Prohibition style, the Volstead Act of 1920, which initiated Prohibition in the U.S., granted permits to 6 distillers in Kentucky to continue to bottle bourbon for medicinal purposes. Through one of these permits, Old Forester continued to be to produce its medical whiskey in Louisville's famed Whiskey Row, the only bourbon to continuously sold by the same company that has been available before, during, and after Prohibition.
That's awesome. And on the bottle here, so what Jameson says, you know, it's saying on the bottle, right on the front of the label, it says, during Prohibition, Old Forester was bottled as medicinal whiskey at 117 West Main Street under Kentucky Permit Number 3. The typical barrel proof at that time prior to bottling was 115. So it makes sense, as this is why they're Prohibition style, because it's at 115. And I'll tell you what, the higher the alcohol content, I'm sure it kills more bacteria.
I was going to say, we're going to have a great case study, because right now I am sick as shit. Yeah. But after a couple of pours of this,
you might be better.
Who knows? About to hop back on my wagon and hit up the Oregon Trail afterwards.
So it did win gold medal at the San Francisco Spirits competition in 2023.
Nice.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, and that's something, and we've talked about it before. What's so cool about bourbon is, you know, there's traditional styles, there's Kentucky, the limestone, whatever it is. But I feel like this is just straight time traveling.
Yeah.
You know, because if this is the same mash bill that came out of the barrel when it was medicinal, I'd be interested to see, like, and I'm genuinely interested to see how you feel, James.
I'm gonna walk out of here, like, man.
Because how much you always think about it, like at 115 proof, that's 58, 58%, right? So it's almost like, okay, so was it a good medicine or was it a phenomenal placebo?
Right.
Well,
right? Like,
so,
I feel great.
Yeah.
When you take when you take painkillers, right? You know, it's still, you know, a drug going into your body, and it's numbing. Why not just take some bourbon?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they used to,
and you have a little bit of fun. I don't remember last time I took Tylenol. I was like, woohoo!
The original Coca-Cola had cocaine in it.
You're right.
Right?
You're
Like,
right. Well, it still does have cocaine in it. It's just stripped of some.
Yeah, but
some
back
elements.
when Coca-Cola had cocaine in it, they were also performing lobotomies, so probably not a good.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, man. I've met a couple people that
could benefit from one.
Legitimately. Well,
give
I'll
me
tell
5
you,
minutes of talking to somebody, like, you know what they should bring back for you?
Lobotomies.
A lobotomy.
Yeah.
One thing I will say right out of the bat, I mean, last week, if you watched last week's episode, you'll see what the color of that bourbon looked like, and we were blown away by it.
Yep.
But what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is like, the color on this is just like a deep amber, like almost
red.
Yeah, almost red.
Brown.
And
red.
it's, I mean, I would venture to say that out of all the bourbons that we've tried, this is my favorite. Like, I would love to have this bourbon encased in like a little metal, like a little glass ball, and wear it as a pendant. Like,
it's a beautiful color.
It is.
Like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, didn't they have the vials of their own blood?
Did they?
Yeah, I think
oh, wow. Sure. Okay.
Jolene. Anyway,
I will say
we're listening to Dolly Parton.
I mean, on the nose, it's ethanol heavy. Like, obviously,
you know what's super funny about that? Maybe I do have COVID.
You can't smell it. If you can't taste it, dude, is this 6 feet?
No, I mean,
It doesn't burn.
no.
Okay, I was gonna say-
smells.
okay,
It smells like alcohol, but it does
Okay.
not burn.
I was
like
like,
alcohol.
I'm getting zero burn.
Yeah, I'm
and
not
I know
getting
that
any burn.
Yeah,
I'm
no. I'm not
congested,
getting
but I'm
any
getting
burn
no
at
burn.
all.
I mean, that's bullshit. 100.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like we should be able to light this on fire.
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah, I'm
honestly,
gonna be-
that flavor is coming through. Wild for it to be that high. I'm getting a lot of vanilla.
I'm getting a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
I mean, I read the-
apricots.
Yes, like
yeah.
dried fruit.
I read all
Figs.
this, so I'm not gonna say
Okay.
anything.
Yeah. Getting a good amount of figs.
Yeah.
That caramel, caramel. You guys killed me with it. Now I'm super conscious of it. But that and the vanilla come through so much stronger and sweeter. And you said Gabe said that this was the dessert.
He said he liked it. It was like dessert.
Yeah, this is. I mean, just on the nose. This, I would say that the nose on this, the sweetness on the nose compares to that weeded.
Yeah.
The weeded old elk that we had 2 weeks ago. You can smell that that more sugary grain in there.
Well, and I mean, you can look at the
Oscar, did
viscosity
you-
on it.
I was
it
gonna look
doesn't-
for the mash
it's-
bill.
I was gonna say, yeah. Did you see if you could find the mash bill? I'm really interested.
But I mean, yeah.
But again, this is considered a whiskey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well-
so it's not. So it's gonna be. It should be less than 51% corn.
I was looking for the mash bill earlier, and they don't make it easy.
I mean, if they probably can't find it. It's probably stuck in some barrel that they hid during.
Well, this pays homage because of
Yeah.
the proof and everything to what was sold still. So 100 years and going.
All right, well, gentlemen, cheers. I'm gonna go ahead
Cheers.
and get that first sip in. Bro, shout out to Gabe. Oh my God, no joke. Wow.
It's sweet at 115.
Wow. No, and I mean, what's incredible with this is I think that the burn, the alcohol, complements the flavor. Like it's almost part of the flavor.
Yeah.
Versus it actually being like full in your mouth and it hits you. Immediately, I felt the alcohol hit my tongue and then just pop through the rest of my tongue, almost cover it. And then it evolved through like that wood, the spice. And on that back end, man, it's, chocolatey, vanilla, caramel. The complexity on this is incredible. Just like
Yeah,
first sip.
it's again. I was reading up on it.
Yeah.
and it's because I've already read it.
Yeah.
It's hitting all the notes.
Yeah.
I was like, man, there's a lot going on here.
Hold on. So Jameson, are you getting anything with your sickliness?
I feel great.
Yeah, already. One
Wait,
sip.
can you taste
One
and
sip.
can you smell?
I can taste it. I can taste
Okay,
it.
good. So it's
I
not
can taste
COVID.
it. It's not COVID.
It's
we
not
think.
vid.
It's not vid.
Man, that's. I gotta be.
You know-
I
No,
gotta be
I,
careful. with
It
this.
almost has a sour finish for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What's the age on these barrels? You know?
Oh man.
Again,
I want to say 6 years.
they were paying homage to just being prohibition, so that's
Yeah.
kind
I'm
of
just
where-
I'm just getting some wood,
Yep.
like the grain, the
Yeah.
wood grain and the aftertaste, but
And just the color alone.
the sugar from that interplay of the alcohol and the wood is in there. But yeah, I agree with you. The alcohol complements it, or the ethanol, I guess, taste complements it.
the unleaded.
It gives it a little bit of an edge to it, but it melts away pretty quick.
Man, they have a pretty rich history too, Old Forester.
Well, yeah,
I mean, it goes on and on. That's why I think it goes more into their history than their mash bill. And
yeah.
whatnot.
yeah. These guys were.
I mean, this
freaking-
is-
They were around for a while.
Wow.
it's good though.
Yeah. That is.
And they have a
phenomenal.
lot of bottles too.
I
A
also
lot.
get the feeling because of the ethanol heavy side of it, JC's glass is going to open up really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's what I was
really
gonna say too. Like it's with how I mean we didn't even open the bottle beforehand.
No.
Like we didn't do a pre-pour, neck pour, nothing. This was the neck pour.
Right.
And the fact that it's that, like, okay, it makes sense that this was a medicinal whiskey because it's not. You could I could
Well-
take this like a little shot
Yeah.
glass of
It's kind of like that. They hide the flavor of medicine with flavor.
yeah.
Can we go back to that?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Like, I'd love to walk into a Walgreens and instead of like you go to like cold and flu, and it's like you've got Zyrtec and you've got Nyquil, and you've got Dayquil, and you've got Mucinex, and so on and so forth.
Old Forester.
Bourbon.
All right,
roll
and
bourbon. Just roll bourbon.
I won't tell you
That's it.
who. I have a few doctors and nurses and whatnot in the family. One of them called me up and said, "Just drink some bourbon. You don't need to take Advil."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay."
Sounds
Straight
good to me.
from the mouth to the horse, or how does it
Right.
go?
Yeah.
Straight from the mouth
Straight
to the
from
ears.
the bourbon to the throat. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Right?
don't know.
I
Whatever,
know.
however that goes. And I was like, "Sure."
And
I
I
twist my arm.
love the mental image of like a mom just like 2:00 in the morning, baby's just colicky crying.
Here's some bourbon.
And just dipping her finger.
All right, maybe
in
not
Old
babies.
Forester
All
and
right,
just-
hold
But they
on.
did that, though. They
Yeah,
put it on
for
the
their
gums.
teeth.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
they
know.
did
My
cocaine.
grandma still did it.
Yep.
Yeah, they did that for
But she did with
cocaine on
rum.
babies.
Yeah.
Just dip it. Yeah, let me just get a little rub in there.
Yeah.
How you doing?
You gotta go
So-
back to that, man. Those are the good old days.
So
all
on the
right?
aroma, an
Yeah.
intense medley of cherry preserves,
Ooh, medley.
drippy caramel. I don't know what that means.
Drippy caramel.
Drippy caramel, dark chocolate, thickened maple syrup, and seasoned oak spiciness.
Yeah, see, the oak is what I got.
A drippy mouthfeel. A drippy.
The
creamy
taste, drippy. I don't know, drippy,
I'm sorry. I had to.
drippy.
It's
Well,
so good.
okay, there's hard caramel
Yeah.
candy and
Yeah.
soft, maybe drippy. Like
Yeah, it's
Sunday.
more runny, so it's
like a
sweeter.
Sunday.
maybe.
All
you
right.
put on
Anyway,
syrup.
continue.
Anyway, the taste, dark caramel coats of layers of malt, nuttiness, and sweet graham cracker, all warmed by green peppercorn and coriander spice, brightened with hints of cedar. The
Yeah,
cedar,
see,
Yeah.
the cedar is what I'm
The
getting.
cedar is
and
definitely.
that
getting
sounds
Yeah.
complex, but that's
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
No, I get all of that.
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
finish is tart apple crisps gives way to a long smoky full finish of toasted marshmallows, chocolate, graham cracker sweetness.
Yo, Old Forester, whoever you're hiring to do your descriptions, this is the first one that we've had that I think is like spot on.
Well, also, he basically just said, "Hey, how do I make a s'more sound fancy?"
Yeah, hey, it works, man. As somebody who's checking out the marketing scene, that's.
I always think
phenomenal.
it's funny too. Like every time we do these and we go through like what the notes are.
Yeah.
And in my like you say the words right. So we had like cedar, peppercorn, graham cracker, marshmallow, drippy caramel, nutmeg, and oak. Right. And I'm like, oh yeah, that also makes sense. But then if I were to take all of those ingredients, just put them on a plate, and be like, hey, take a bite.
That's what you should do.
Like what the
Just have
fuck
that
is
there.
this?
Yeah.
Put it all in a blender. Just, here you go.
Just get a NutriBullet and be like, hold up, I got something for you.
I'm gonna make you some Old Forester. No.
Oh man.
So take another drink.
Yeah.
The sweetness, it's more. It's
Yeah.
more
I'll tell you what, I'm cured.
pronounced. Take your medicine, man. Just sit there and take your medicine.
I'm just blown away by how smooth it is at 100.
I already took a picture of this label. So
Yeah.
anybody that comes at me goes, why are you drinking whiskey? You're sick. I'm just gonna.
It's
medicinal,
Yeah,
right?
That's what it is.
It's medicinal whiskey.
That's great.
And
I do like it though. This. Actually, no. We'll save it till the
before, during, and after,
Yeah.
they've been strong.
of
Yeah.
Prohibition.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then again, Prohibition.
One
90
of my other
years.
favorite Forester bottles is their Statesman. Is really good too. I think
I
that
saw
was
that
100
one too.
proof.
I
think
saw that,
Statement's 100 proof.
but I haven't had this one in a while.
Yeah. No. This
They do
one's-
have a pretty expansive line of.
Oh, they have
Excuse me,
a
whiskeys.
lot of
Yeah.
whiskeys.
But their
I mean, a
Statesman's
lot.
good. This is the first time I've had the Prohibition style. So
This
I'm
is.
glad.
I mean,
I'm glad you brought this in. This is
for me, it's cool because every time we have like a bourbon that I'm just like, oh wow, like first sip,
Yeah.
immediately I'm like, add that to the log of what I have to buy for the next camping trip.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
Yeah, this is definitely a good camping trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
It's-
some s'mores on the fire with the man.
Oh, I
with
bet
some
you-
peppercorn and maybe
yes.
some
Yeah.
cedar planks
Oh
and
man,
some rosemary,
some
and
drippy
maybe,
caramel.
yeah, and some drippy
Jeez.
caramel.
Just Oscar
Sounds
standing
like-
over a
just
fire.
sounds
with
like a great,
caramel.
just melted into a pot.
Well, guys, as we sip through and we enjoy this Prohibition style from Old Forester, the topic that we want to talk today is a little like this bourbon, a little warming, right?
Is warming or
Warming globally.
globally warming?
Now, guys, today, something that we've seen a lot of, and Colorado's a leading example of it, is we have stuff happening like natural disasters that are really affecting, insurance rates, and are even having some insurance providers pull out of areas specifically because they don't want to insure it. And what we're seeing is the cost of living is rising, and owning a home is rising because, and I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but it's been huge in the news in Colorado. Castle Rock has like something going on with their HOAs where their insurance skyrocketed.
One of them was just them being stupid and bought the wrong insurance policy.
But-
the other one was based off of hail damage. Yeah.
Well, so my insurance went up, right? A lot of them here in Colorado because
Mm-hmm.
of hail damage. We had there were back-to-back hail damage, hailstorms here in Colorado. You could, and this will segue to what we're talking about. Can you imagine? I can understand why big insurances are pulling out of like New Orleans. I mean, they're below sea level. I mean, it happens more times than not.
Yeah, but look at us. I mean, we're you got to think too.
But-
California.
Yeah, so California is another one. I mean, it said that annually wildfires, erosion, and sea level rise cause somewhere around 300 million to 3.9 billion in real estate losses annually.
Yeah. Well, and here's something, and obviously, guys, you know us. We like to stay in the middle on these kinds of things. Somebody would argue yes, no, whatever it is. Again,
Yeah, if I see one comment that goes, global warming's not real, it's 38 degrees outside.
like, whew, well,
Yeah, it's cold as shit
As soon as I
outside
take
here,
this
so.
medicine, I'm
Well,
coming
But
after
what I'm trying to say is like, irregardless of that fact,
Right.
Like, regardless of
we're not
if you-
talking about that. We're talking about the real estate
Yeah,
portion.
we're talking about how it is affecting the American pocket and adding to the already stressful market that we're experiencing.
Yeah, and I think you can preface it by if you guys want to watch this and don't want to take the the climate change argument, what you can say is, okay, let's keep all things equal,
Right.
and we have the same amount of hurricanes, the same amount of flooding, the same amount of severe storms, but our population is growing, and the amount of houses that are being pushed into areas that otherwise were not populated before.
Yep.
Right? Like, I mean, look at Colorado, man. You go up to drive down I-70 going towards like Idaho Springs, and all those multi-million-dollar homes are sitting in these peaks that haven't been hit by wildfires yet. You go down to Colorado Springs, that the whole Mountain Shadows area, Black Forest.
Go out to
If you
the
go
the Hageman Fire, Lost Creek
Yep.
Wilderness.
If you go out to California, I mean, they're running out of space to build because really you've got the coast and then you've got Death Valley. So in between is just mountains. So all the population, and we have to put houses somewhere, right? Colorado's a big one. So one of the biggest, Weld County is the #1 county in the United States for tornadic activity.
So on average,
Which
you
is
get
wild to
53
think.
tornadoes a year here in
Yes.
Colorado, and they're all east of I-25,
Correct.
which is Weld County, and you
Adams
head
County
south, and then
and Elbert.
Lamar gets hit a lot.
Yep.
So maybe this episode not, quote unquote climate change or natural disasters and climate change.
Yeah, and I think it's
exactly.
just how climate is
Because-
affecting
Yes.
real estate.
From what Jameson said, we have west of I-25, you have wildfires. There's our mountainous. We're primarily Denver is in the plains, and then so east of I-25 you have tornadoes. So in between that,
you have hail.
we have hail.
Well, and that's the exact thing. And it's funny because we've seen all of us here in Colorado. We kind of have a trifecta going on when it comes to insurances. We hit the highest, auto theft in the country last year.
Yeah, they stole the mayor's car.
Yep.
They were like, "What are you going to do about this, auto theft?" And he kind of leisurely said he's going to do something, and then they stole his car.
Yep.
Maybe we'll find out.
But
Maybe.
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 Maybe. But it's the one thing that I want to focus on is there are factors out of our control that no matter what we do, we can't control what's going to happen with, say, like insurance companies, right? And what we're finding is places like Florida, Colorado, California, these insurance companies are legitimately backing out because, just as an example, the Boulder fires that we had now 2 years ago, that reached over $2 billion in damages, right? That, as an insurance company, insurance companies, like, again, at this level, at our level of the totem pole in the economic status, when we hear billions, it's hard for us to fathom what billions means, right? But with insurance companies, they have to pay that. Like, like they can go to court, they can try and fight certain things, as Excel was trying to do, all these companies were trying to do, but people are paying, like, it's a service they have to provide. So all the insurance companies can do is like, yo, we can't, we can't support you guys. This is happening way too fast, way too much.
Yes.
And as a homeowner, when you're faced with your monthly payment, you don't really want to add more insurance that you have to, right?
Yep.
And a lot of these insurance companies, they don't cover a lot of the natural disasters, earthquakes, floods, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They force you, lenders do at least, to get flood insurance if you're on the floodplain, right? And that map is, I think, revamped every 100 years, or it's
100 years.
It's guided by 100 years. How many floods happen in 100 years?
Well,
and I talked about in past episodes, I had a house in Wheat Ridge, no body of water, but it was on that floodplain.
Yeah, basically they do it where any homes that have a 1% chance of flooding in the next 100 years is put on that flood map. But to kind of, and I just want to, like, not tie this in a bow, but like I don't know, set a precedent how we're going to talk about it. So when we talk about climate in homes, there's like kind of 3 areas that we talk about: insurance costs, right, which affects cost of living; property taxes, and home valuations. And then to me, the big one's going to be like migration patterns of where people are going to be moving in the future and where they're going to be moving out of and into. So I think we can start with the insurance, because that's the biggest one. I think that obviously hits people's pockets. It's been a big topic.
Well, and I'm wondering if insurance hedge their bets by, you know, the wildfire in Boulder County.
In Superior?
If that happened in another county, let's say, I don't know, wherever Rifle is. I don't know what county that is.
Eagle, I think.
I think it's further west.
Is it further west? Yeah.
The property damage is not going to be the same. You know, there's the average house there is about 200,000. I mean, Jimson, who lives out there, right?
Okay, but perfect example. Look what just happened to Highlands Ranch.
Right.
Oh yeah, Highlands Ranch got hammered.
I
forgot about that.
That's a town. If you look at that, like if you look at it,
and you hit just Highlands Ranch too.
And if you look
Parts
at
of
you see
Littleton, but-
Denver and you go, wait a second, how the hell did none of these places get hit, but this place got wrecked?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I forgot all about that, and I showed a property and it said, please look at supplements.
Yep.
And in the supplements, it went back to the tornado. It had flooded the basement. I was like, oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It destroyed Highlands Ranch.
Yeah. Well, and I think so in relation to climate.
And that was west of I-25, by the way.
It was, yeah.
We get a lot of
470
tornadoes, but they don't really touch down. This one not
Rarely.
only not hit east, it hit west, and it trashed Highlands Ranch.
But from an insurance standpoint, the concern going forward is, as climate change or anything else continues to happen, you're just going to have more populations in larger areas, right? So Colorado, and we talked about this on a previous episode, we are number 2 in the nation in natural disaster claims for insurance, which is crazy to me. Number 1's California, number 2 is Colorado, number 3 is Florida.
So what do we?
We're number 1 in hail.
Hail. Okay.
So that's big, right?
And that's all tie into that after you're
so
done.
that's the big one. So the concern is, and we're going to take this from a home buyer and home seller standpoint, is these are just things you have to think about, right? Because we always talk, anytime somebody moves to Denver, and you and I joke about this all the time, like, where's all the snow? It's like, no, man, we're in a high desert plain. Like, we don't get snow. We're on something called the Palmer Divide. We're at 5,300 feet above sea level, 6,400 if you're down in Castle Rock, 51 if you're up in Fort Collins. But regardless, the storms roll off the mountains. They build up all this energy, and then they drop it on the Denver metro area. And Denver has a ton of new builds that are going up. Check out our YouTube channel for some of those tours. And the more those houses get put up and the more expensive those materials are, there's just a greater chance of hail damage affecting a larger area of homes. And because of that, you've got the insurance companies that over the last 5 years in Colorado, for every $1 in premium they've taken in monthly, they've paid out $1.60. So they've lost 60 cents for every premium they take in. If that's, I mean, obviously it's not sustainable, right? So what do they have to do? They got to raise the premium in order to keep up, right? So these are just some things to consider when you're looking at either buying a house or selling your house, looking at the roof certification, getting a roof certification. You know, it matters if you've got a class 3 or a class 4 shingle. It matters if you have really good roofing contacts that can get things done and work with the right insurance. You know, work with the right insurance people. Personal example for me, my parents just got dropped from Progressive. They've never had a claim in 5 years. But Progressive goes, hey, you know what? Based on our algorithm, you're in Castle Rock. It's a higher fire danger zone. So we'll run your premium through July. Then you got to find somebody else.
And we had an insurance agent in one of the first episodes that we did, and also know how to structure your insurance.
Yeah, go back and check that out.
Yeah, go back and check it out because we talked about how
Silk met 'em.
you know, you want to up your deductible. You don't want to claim and that's cost less than, let's say, $2,000. If it's a $500 fix, do it yourself. It doesn't mess with the insurance because that stays on record.
And you can write it off.
And you can write it off, and you up it 1,000, maybe 1,500, because if it's more than 1,500, then you got to get the insurance involved, right? And on top of that, when we were talking about the floodplains, my client had to take it the way it was because he went to FHA, and there's only a few that do flood insurance, so it was ridiculously expensive. I mean, the premium was ridiculous. An insurance agent said the agent should have told you up that deductible way up. The house didn't even have a basement; it was in crawl space. So why are you insuring crawl space? Let it flood. Let it flood and up the deductible as much as you can to lower that premium.
Well,
You could do
yeah.
that. No one says that you can't up your deductible. Up it as much as you can. The chances of it flooding are slim to none. And if it does, what are you going to insure?
Well,
Your
on
furnace
top
down
of that
there?
too, like that's a great.
So understand what you're doing.
But that's a great point too, Oscar, because a lot
and
of
maybe
people,
I'm wrong, but that's
Well, and a lot of people forget, how premiums work, right? Premiums premiums are what you pay throughout your term, right? But your sorry, the word just escaped me. What you pay, your deductible is what you have to pay out of pocket before insurance picks up, right?
Correct.
So what Oscar's talking about with that being up your deductible, right? I think that is a phenomenal way to think about it, because if you have something that goes wrong with the house when it comes to a natural disaster, what percentage of the time is that going to cost less than $1,500?
right.
Right.
I mean, I had my roof replaced, and my roofer did a bunch of other small jobs that the hail did damage, and I think it was $35,000.
Right.
Yeah.
But to my point is if you're going to spend that regardless, right? If whether your deductible's $1,000, whether your deductible's $2,000, if the total project is going to come out to $35,000, I would much rather pay $2,000 and go, I would have had to pay $35 anyway. So here you go, and you take the rest of it. But again, in this day and age, what we're all doing financially is we're playing the waiting game. Like, I know myself personally, I'm putting everything on monthly payments because I know I can survive monthly. If I start looking at what a mortgage is going to cost 30 years or what a premium does in 6 months, then I'm going to go, shit, that's that scary amount of money.
Yeah.
But if you break it down to the monthly payment, and that's exactly why Oscar and Silk also mentioned, hey, manage your monthly, right?
Silk was the insurance agent.
Silk, yeah. Silk was the insurance agent we had on. So how it works is if you up your deductible,
Lowers your premium.
it lowers your premium, right? So by lowering your premium, you're paying less monthly because your premium is divided, whether 6 months, 12 months, for your coverage. So by upping your deductible, it's taking your monthly payments down. And guess what? You can change that virtually as much as you want at any point, right? So let's say you go through a stint, you go, shit, I know something's coming. These next 5 months are not going to be easy. Up that deductible and make your monthly payments a little bit lower. And then when stuff gets easy, you get a bonus check, whatever, cool. I have a little bit of breathing room. I can go back down. I can manage these monthly payments. But that's a great point.
Why pay for a premium that is way more expensive if you have a $500 deductible when chances are that you may not
Right.
you may not use it, and the difference is do the math between how much your premium is going to lower and with your deductible if something happens. And sometimes these companies work with you anyway.
Yes.
And the one insurance policy or insurance realm world that I hate is medical. I mean, it's so expensive for self-employed people. I think the last insurance company that we were with, I was paying up towards $1,000 for my family plan, and I still had to pay out of pocket most of the time. And they had like a $6,000 cap for each one of us. So at the end of the day, I could have probably saved money if I would have went and paid the doctors out of pocket.
Oh yeah. I mean,
So
that's what I've
I
been
do the
doing.
math on that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
So
just paying out of pocket.
the homeowner's insurance, same way. Do the math on your deductible, because you have to have insurance, right?
Yeah.
If you have a loan, you have to have insurance. Plus, it's probably a good idea because if your house burns down, I mean, unless you're wealthy, you're not going to have $800,000 to replace your property, $500,000, whatever the case may be. But do the math on your deductible and your premium, and find out what works for you monthly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the insurance portion of it, right? And obviously we could go into, that could be another whole episode in itself, but on, away from insurances, you also have our inventory issue, right? Is, hey, where we need to build more houses, we need more inventory. And then you have states like Florida, you have states like Louisiana, that they kind of have like this double-edged sword, because when people move there and they build, they want to build on the water. Right. That's why they live there, right? Because they want to enjoy that. But now what we're seeing is some builders won't touch certain areas, and insurers sure as hell won't touch those areas, right? Because we've seen an increase in hurricanes, in natural disasters, and in their intensity. Like, that's not only their frequency, but their intensity. Like, you go back 25, 30 years, we had some bad ones that would come through regularly, but I mean, how many times have we named a tropical storm at this point?
Yeah.
In the last 10 years.
And I may or may not have a resolution to that. What's the one city, Venice? or
In
Oh
it's on
yeah,
the water.
yeah.
in Italy.
Louisiana, blow the levee, make a U.S. Venice.
Yeah, there,
Yeah, the problem is Venice is going to disappear in the next 10 to 15 years.
yeah,
So
exactly.
Well, you know, we got at least 10 to 15 years. I mean, come on. If there was ever a city that needed a bath, it was New Orleans.
that's true.
I mean,
Yeah, I
who
just don't know
said
if
that?
I'd-
I think
I'd
it was
bathe in-
Chappelle
I don't
or
know if I'd
someone.
bathe in those waters, but you know,
I think Chappelle said that.
Yeah.
That's not for me. Don't quote me on that.
but
Don't
no,
get mad at me,
and,
But
and I think you're right. 'cause
As an
the-
insurance company, you got to look at all
Yeah.
that.
Well, and the problem is like, so I don't know if you guys, this is probably, I think this is in early October, maybe late September. And this is outside the U.S. It's in Acapulco. And there was a hurricane.
Acapulco.
Yeah, it was a hurricane that was approaching Acapulco. And at the time, it was a tropical storm. It was like 75-mile-an-hour sustained winds. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, it looks like it's going to head this way, and it'll make landfall in the next 48 hours. In that 48 hours, it intensified from a Category 1 to a Category 5 to the point where they couldn't evacuate people because they didn't realize what was happening. And it hit with 160-mile-an-hour winds, right? The whole city's devastated. So it's not even that, like, the frequency of the events are increasing per se, but the intensity is, right? And again, if you want to take this not as a climate change argument, then it's not the intensity of them happening is getting worse, but when they do hit, there's just more people living and
Right.
that will be affected, right?
Yeah.
Clarkson, Tennessee, 2 days ago, got hit by a EF3 tornado right outside of Nashville, right? Like
Yeah, that was nasty.
imagine an F3 tornado. I mean, the one that hit Highland Ranch was an F1, so it was like the very most mild version. An F3 tornado hitting a city of 900,000 people, like. And in 10 years ago, that city may have only had 400,000.
No, that's a great point. That's a great
know?
point. Even if you don't want to talk about it as climate change, we are overpopulating
Correct.
certain
Exactly.
areas, so it costs money to replace.
Exactly. And these insurance companies can't keep up because the replacement costs have also gone up, right? That you kind of touched on it, but like the replacement cost of your house on an insurance policy, it may only be 600,000. But if I want to rebuild my house right now, it's going to cost me 800,000, right? So the insurance companies now have to go, okay, I have to pay that if something does happen. And the problem with something like a natural disaster, like a tornado or a hailstorm or a deep freeze like we saw in Houston, Texas, 5 years back, whatever it is, a hurricane, is when those do happen, it's not one or two houses. It went from like maybe 150 houses to like 500 houses to now like 1,500 houses because the population density is continuing to expand.
I think that's the word.
And
density.
that's what it is, right? So
Population
when
density.
you guys are looking at purchasing or looking at selling and moving to a different area, the one thing we want you guys to look at is the insurance because Charlie touched on it. There's a lot of areas of the country that insurances companies are pulling out.
And the
you're
stigma
going
stays
to-
with the house sometimes.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
They
absolutely.
won't insure because the house has had
Exactly.
too many claims.
Yep. And you're and now you're looking at, I think California and Florida, Colorado's got it on the docket for an insurance of last resort, which is going to be funded by the state. And now you're only going to have one choice, which that's not a good thing either because if you have no insurance companies to compete against each other, you're going to be forced to pay higher rates.
Right.
So when you're looking at different areas,
Well,
one of the things that people look at last when they go under contract, because our deadlines are 21 days out for
Insurance.
For insurance deadlines,
The insurability.
that's the last thing they look at, and then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, wait a second, my insurance is going to be $8,000 a year. I was making on $3,500 a year."
Right.
So when you guys are looking at it, I encourage my clients to look at that first.
Yeah.
And you can call your insurance agent, and they can run a report on a specific address and give you an estimate on what you're going to pay.
Yeah.
Before
They'll give you a deck page.
Well, and
before you
yeah.
even put an offer in, right? Because I've seen this happen before. Somebody goes in, and it actually just happened on a closing in Castle Rock. They had a budget, they had their monthly payment, right? The lender will do what they can to estimate based on what the previous insurance was on the house, but now we know that that's going up exponentially. All of a sudden, they go under contract, they have their earnest money deposit, they go through the inspection, we get through the inspection resolution, and then 20 days later, all of a sudden, they're bumping up against that property insurance deadline, and they go, wait a second, my 3 quotes was $7,000. I was banking on 4. Now my monthly payment's going up $300 a month.
You got to kill a deal.
And now all of a sudden you go back to the lender, and if you're on a razor's edge, and this happened to us, we were at a 46% DTI after the insurance came through.
Thank you.
We were at 58.95%. So we were 0.5% away from not qualifying on a house 20 days after going into contract because they refused to look at insurance early enough. And they, they're
And you
moving
could
from out of
shop
state,
it.
it's a
I
little
mean,
bit
there's
different.
some.
No, that's not.
You
But what I'm
definitely
saying
don't.
is
You definitely don't want to
prepare.
underinsure your house.
prepare, because before, like 5 years ago, I don't think insurance was really on anybody's mind other than just kind of a nuisance of like, okay,
Right.
it is what it is. But now with the amount of insolvency that we're seeing, based on the amount of natural disasters that are hitting large areas or large concentrated population
Dense-
areas,
dense
now all of a
population.
sudden you're running into this issue more and more and more. So if you're looking at purchasing a home or even selling and moving to a new place,
And-
just look at it early.
That makes complete sense with Castle Rock. Castle Rock was not a big city.
No.
We've had so much growth, and insurance went up.
Check out our YouTube channel again. We have a whole video on Castle Rock. We actually talk about what they wanted to cap
it
the
up.
population at right at the beginning of the episode. And to your point, Oscar, of not only where, what, but how, right? So a lot of the time, and this is why you always hear us say, when you're preparing to buy a house, look at your monthly cost first, because like I said earlier, that's easier to swallow. That's easier to manage. You can go, okay, I can pick up 2 extra shifts here. I could sell this on the side,
Stop
whatever
drinking
it is.
Starbucks.
Yeah, whatever, or
No
avocado toast.
Hey,
Whatever the boomers are saying.
whoa!
these
Let's
days.
not get carried away. That damn avocado toast is delicious.
Which, by the way, I'm going to say this once an episode from now on. Boomers, sell your house.
Yeah. Boomers
Please
sell your house. Please.
sell your
Move.
house.
They have
Not gonna
Move
happen.
on.
Where are they gonna go?
Okay,
They have
move on.
amazing senior living.
It's
Oh
not the
man,
1980s
no!
anymore.
A lot of them don't like playing bingo or
They have
socializing.
bocce bowl.
Man,
No,
yeah, you can have
Hey, what are you
bingo
talking about?
nights.
My
I've
grandma
heard
would not
I've heard
get along
that
with
the
any of those
sexual
people.
escapades that happen in senior
I
living
do
communities.
not want to know about
are
sexual
incredible.
escapades with old people.
I'm just saying, man.
I feel like that could be a whole other episode.
have-
I didn't know that was a thing. That's
Yeah.
why. So it's like, I mean, I guess it's.
I'm
the
not
circle
gonna be
of life,
part of that
right?
episode.
It's like moving back into the dorms in college.
Hey, when you've
Sneaking up and
experienced
sneaking
up and down.
all that life has to offer, and you're just sitting around a bunch of people who are like, "Yo, I'm just trying to live the rest of my life. What else are you gonna do?
trying to live my life, man.
I'm just trying to have that
what's that
experience.
one reality show down below?
Yeah,
Seniors edition.
yeah, exactly.
Wheelchair
No.
bound and gagged. Ooh.
So where we're getting at is, not only is it going to affect your monthly payment and your pocketbook, you may not like it, but it might tear the deal apart.
Yes.
If you're on a razor edge on the debt to income, that's what DTI is. The bank's not going to want you to spend more money than you make, so it might kill the deal. So do your due diligence up front with the insurance, and again, the house may be the reason.
It is,
And
that's
and,
why.
then, and then how do you attack that, right? Because it's not on the buyer at that point. The seller went and did. They filed every insurance claim they could.
Yep.
And any insurance company be like, hell no, I'm not going to insure that. That house has problems.
Yep.
And it's a stigmatized property at
Yep.
that point.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with you, the buyer.
And how often do we say this, right? Work with somebody that you trust.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Um,
No, and
there
again,
is-
I'll say it right now. I wasn't going to say anything, but obviously I've had some medicine. I went up against an earnest money dispute not too long ago, a week ago. The agent, the managing broker, and one of the leading real estate attorneys, and they took my freaking contract apart.
Yeah.
Agent couldn't do it. Didn't want to give it up. We were in every right to get the earnest money back, but they were pissed.
Yep.
Sellers were pissed. Managing broker called me, and instead of having a civil conversation with me, she was trying to wrong me. And I said, I'm not trying to wrong anybody. I have a buyer that can't buy, and now he's in dire straits. Couldn't argue the point with me, so they got the attorney involved. And obviously the attorney's going to know how to spin anything, because if I would have wrote it how he wanted to, he would have still spinned it, because there's nowhere in our contracts to write in what and how we structured it. And I did everything right. So with that said, get a realtor that knows what they're doing, because they wanted to keep all of it. My clients ended up keeping 75%.
Yeah. And there's creative ways, and again,
Because anybody could spin it anyway in real estate.
yeah, they can. But my main point is,
And shout out to Kyle. He had my back.
my main point is the be prepared, and we wanted to talk about it because a lot of people, and what's the average time? 5 to 7 years between when people buy houses, right?
Yeah, 5
Most
years.
individuals will not have an insurance claim in those 7 years that you own the house. Most likely, unless you're in Colorado and it's hail damage. But even then, you probably won't have the claim until you're selling your house and somebody inspects the roof and goes, "Hey, by the way, there's hail damage." So you
And
just
go
wouldn't know.
the extra mile and get the hail resistant,
Correct.
because that's only going to save your butt.
Right.
Well, and
But
it's,
real quick.
Yeah.
So the point is, we don't expect you guys to keep up with these, but it's important to understand the context of why we're preaching this whole climate issue when you're moving, because it's going to have a larger impact. We're talking about insurance now. We're going to talk about a couple other things, but a very big impact on your pocketbook, checking account, your mortgage payment, all that qualification. So do your due diligence early and understand why. And it's not like it's unfair, right? yes, insurance sucks. Nobody likes insurance, but you also don't want insurance to go insolvent, because the one time it does happen to you and you call your insurance agent and say, hey, a house fire took over my house, I need help. And they go, yeah, sorry, we're actually out of business. So we're going to refund you your premium. Good luck.
Good luck.
You don't want that to happen either. So
The bank's gonna be pissed, by the way.
Yeah.
and you still own that mortgage.
Yep.
Like you still got to pay the
You
note.
might be stuck with
You
a
gotta pay the
mortgage
note.
in a house you don't live in.
You got to pay
And
the note.
another important note on that, as because what we're seeing a lot of, especially here in Colorado, is we're seeing people leave for greener pastures, right? And we're
Good
seeing,
luck.
Well, we're seeing.
just kidding.
No, I agree. I'm eating it right now. I love Colorado. I want to stay here. But what I mean by that is, we see people that grew up in Colorado that rarely ever saw an ocean, that rarely ever saw monsoons, hurricanes, ever dealt with high winds, ever dealt like hurricane winds, ever dealt with high rain and flooding in basements, stuff like that, because they're moving from a place like Colorado to Florida. And so it's, as you're looking and as you're exploring, ask questions, go visit, ask the people in the communities that you want to know, what is this like? How
Go
does
visit
this
during
work?
one of their bad seasons.
Yeah.
My mom's one of them. So all of my uncles moved to Florida. Well, one uncle has been there forever. I have family in Florida. And he's had a very persuasive influence on all his siblings, my mom being one of them. And his brother, all my uncles are down there now. They're in Punta Gorda. And my mom wants to move down there. My mom hates bad weather. She hates the cold. So that's why Florida's like, every time she visits, it's like, oh my God, it's warm. The beaches. And I said, no, go during their monsoon season. You're going to be depressed. It rains every freaking day. And you know what? 50 degrees in Florida is freaking cold because it's so humid. It chills you to the bone.
Let me go ahead and flip the script on it. You think Florida, you go, oh, well, yeah, hurricanes, high winds, rains.
I want to see my mom during a hurricane.
But
She'll bring her ass right back.
But you say monsoon.
Sorry, Mom.
But you say monsoon season. What's a state that people go, holy shit, it never rains there. It's just dry and arid.
Never
Arizona.
states in Southern California. No.
Well,
Arizona,
Arizona, right?
Yeah.
If you're thinking about moving to Arizona, make sure you're not in a monsoon or flood area, because that shit happens.
Well, and you know what?
And it floods because it's so dry, so it keeps the water up.
Yep, exactly.
Well, and think about it this way, right? So we talk about, this kind of segues into migration patterns, right? One of the big trends to look for going...
you say migration patterns and all I can hear is, here we see the average human trying to avoid clinical
I thought
disasters.
animals and hunting as well. Yeah.
The human is trying to avoid natural disasters. So here is the migration route.
Yeah. But, I mean, so if you think about it, what is one of the most expensive cities in the United States to live in?
New York.
No, it's in California.
More than
San
New York?
Francisco.
San Diego.
San Diego.
No way.
Ah, the whale's vagina.
But why? Why is San Diego so expensive?
San Diegans.
What?
Why is San Diego so expensive?
It's because all
it never
avocado
rains?
toast.
It never rains. It's 82 degrees,
It's a
whether
naval
it's January
shipyard.
or July. It's a temperate climate. They don't have a ton of wildfire concerns. Like it's the perfect weather if you look at it. But it's so expensive, so people want to live there because of outdoor activities, so on and so forth.
You know their houses, they don't have HVAC systems, some of them?
No, because
Weird.
it's
Yeah, my
82
sister-in-law just moved
and then
from
it's
there.
62. So all you gotta do is crack open a window and you're good to go, right? My point is, people don't understand, like in the grand scheme of things, like if we're looking like individually, I have my reasons to move somewhere, somebody else has their reason to move somewhere. But the biggest reason for people to move is going to be cost, right?
Right.
They're going to go into lower cost
biggest
areas,
factor.
like we talked about it, right?
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is as these things start to affect the coastal areas, Colorado, you just said it, people are moving out because insurance claims are going higher. Well, those people are now wanting to move to lower cost areas. Okay, well, what happens if everybody moves from the Sun Belt to the Rust Belt?
Yep.
Well,
Or to the Bible Belt.
Or the Bible Belt. Now, all of a sudden, those low-cost areas, you're going to see those property values probably increase
Right.
because of the migration pattern of people. The likewise is true as people get older. Right?
Genius.
You
Case
don't
in
want
point,
to.
Colorado
Jesus.
the last 15
Genius.
years.
No,
There's
you're
a
right.
reason-
Because the Bible Belt, okay, you got the southern, it's not expensive.
Right.
I don't
No.
know. Fact check me.
It's not.
crazy
No.
expensive to live down there. But what if everybody goes there and then a natural disaster happens, insurance goes up, everything goes up.
Right.
People eat up all the food, and more food needs to be imported. It costs money when there's
I mean, shit. Look at
population density
look
costs
at Nevada.
money.
Look at the Hoover Dam.
Right.
In general, Arizona again. Like these places are coming to us because they're like, we need your snow melt. We need your water. Like that's now, again, you have more cost, higher cost because of what it costs to move the materials from state to state, what it costs to send over. Now add on the insurance of it. Like we just have so many factors that are coming up against us right now when it comes to costs, not to mention factors in the world that are going on.
Well, and I think it's exacerbated now because previous to COVID, right, the migration pattern was really built based off of the age of the population.
And jobs.
Right? Right, but my point, right.
Yes.
So you move to where jobs are when you're younger.
Yep.
Raise a family, you have the white picket fence, you commute from the suburbs to the city, blah, blah, blah. You can't go past 40 miles because of traffic, so on and so forth. Then the kids move out, and then you're empty nesters. So now maybe you buy a secondary home because you don't have the kids at home. And then when you retire, you don't want to deal with snow and shoveling and all that kind of stuff. You want to golf. So you now move to the Sun Belt, you move to Arizona, you move to, Florida, one of those areas, right? That was all based off of age for the most part because the work piece kept people static.
Well, I mean,
now
there's a lot of factors, right? Because Arizona snowbirds.
No, that's what I'm saying.
My in-laws are from Minnesota, and my grandfather-in-law, he was a snowbird. He had to have a nice house in Arizona, so you have to factor in income as well. I mean, it all ties in, right?
Right, but my point is, previous to COVID, the migration patterns of the human species was based off of age and where they were at in the workforce. Now, with the advent of working from home and working remotely, the workforce part isn't keeping people in an area, right? Like my wife can, if we wanted to, we could move to Arizona tomorrow.
You can move anywhere.
And she could keep the same deal. But my point is, so now what happens, now you've got maybe more affluent millennials or Gen Xers that are able to now move into those areas and not want to deal with it. So the patterns have shifted.
And I think that's like an unspoken thing right now, right? Because my neighbors, I just talked to them today, and we had invited them over because our Nolan and her son, they go to the same school and they wanted to hang out, and we were going to have them over on the weekend. And they said they might be going to Minnesota for a Christmas party because that's where her husband works.
Right.
They live here.
Yeah.
And he works in Minnesota. So that's like an unspoken thing that's
we see
becoming a trend.
We see it right here. Look at we have an episode on Sloan's Lake on the channel, but look at Sloan's Lake area.
Don't swim in that lake.
As
a native, don't you dare swim in that lake.
We've seen a population boom in that area specifically because they are building homes specifically for millennials that are working from home, that are in the tech industry, that can take the rail from Sloan's Lake into Denver if they need to. But like that is a perfect example of what Jameson is talking about, is that as society shifts, as these opportunities shift, 100%. Like I make videos for a living. I sell real estate. I could do that anywhere. So in my mind, I'm going, why the hell would I buy a house for $600,000 in Colorado when I can move to Western North Carolina right now and spend $280,000 and get a house that I could never dream of having here? Yeah. Like those are thoughts that are
my
happening.
Colorado pride is going to say, because you're not here and my mountains, but my non-Colorado pride is you should, so I can visit you.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I think that's the part of it, because we always talk about market trends, right? And I think when it comes to climate change, the freedom for people to move based on where they want to go now because of the workforce and whatnot, if they want to get rid of the snow or their insurance is too high because of natural disasters in this state or the other, it makes the market, I think more unpredictable.
Yes.
Or it moves faster because you can get up, pick up and move and still have the same job and do the exact same thing. Whereas before you kind of had to suck it up. And as the population was less, there wasn't as much fluctuation in cost of insurance and all that kind of stuff. So it's harder to predict, but one of the things I wanted to bring up, and this is the flooding thing, just going back to what Oscar's saying, things that are making people move. So right now, there's 14.6 million properties in the United States that face a 1% annual probability of flooding, which would then lead them to have flood insurance, right? By 2050, so it's 2024 technically, so we're talking 25 years, right? So in 25 years, that 1%, or that 14.6 million properties that face 1%, it's going to jump to 11%.
So let's spin it.
11%.
Let's spin it to the migration human crap that you've been talking about earlier. I suck at voices. So let's look at it that way. And instead of climate change, it's just climate damage, and where people are going to migrate and occupy, right? So let's say that I always look at whatever mathematical equation they use, it can be skewed at any time. So people are going to avoid those places. right? So now the Bible Belt, populated, maybe, right? Or Colorado, populated, maybe, because they're avoiding floods. If the coastal cities are going to come in.
Charlotte, North Carolina is one of the highest population growth by percentage per capita in the entire country right now.
I've never been. I was supposed to go to
Hilton Head?
Nags Head?
Some head. In
Nags Head.
The
Either
Carolinas.
Nags Head or
it was like Golf Town or something like that. and I never went.
Hilton Head is in South Carolina. If
Yeah.
you haven't, that's where Harbor Town is. Great course.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I was supposed to visit. Anyway, so the migration patterns of where we're going to go will skew that. But again, that's where you have to make the wise decisions, right? So it's patterns of what we're going to do that climate's going to cause. And instead of like climate change, it's like climate cause,
as always,
and the damage.
Preparation.
Well,
preparation.
but what you just said, right? You said the Bible Belt. So the Bible Belt right now is affordable. You go to like Wichita, Kansas. You go to Norman, Oklahoma. You go to Topeka. You
Wichita,
go to
Kansas is fun, by the way. It's a college town.
I
partied there.
Yeah, right. Wherever. Just
I partied
in general.
at the Christian college.
Me
too, Furman.
It's affordable because there's not a lot of demand. There's plenty of space to build, right? So now, and I'm just going to take this damage, right? So the expected annual damage to residential properties now, due to flooding, $32 billion a year. Okay, that's being paid by the insurance companies. In 25 years, that's supposed to increase by almost 50%.
Holy crap.
Okay, in 25 years. So if that's the case, most likely those areas in this flood zone, all the popular coastal areas that we're talking about, right? And this is just flooding. That is going to now drive those people out, not because they don't want to live there anymore or they can't like physically live there because it's flooded, because flooding happens all the time, but it's going to be a cost issue and they are going to be forced out. And if they do go to somewhere like the Bible Belt, now you're going to see an uptick in demand to build houses and communities in the Bible Belt, right? Well, what else is the Bible Belt known for besides the weird signs that you see when you drive where it's like, don't have an abortion, sex shop, don't have an abortion, larger sex shop.
No, I think Tennessee for a while it said enter at your own risk.
Yeah.
It was from the police department.
Yeah. But what else
Sorry,
they
guys.
have is it's also Tornado Alley.
Yep.
Right.
And if every other natural disaster is getting more severe, then now imagine in 25 years, we have this influx into the Rust Belt and the Bible Belt, but now, and the same amount of tornadoes happen, but you've got 10 times the population. What do you think is going to happen? And then let's factor into this. This will tie it into property values. I said this, I think, 10 episodes ago, I want to say. We were talking about why buying a house is a great investment, because every 10 years, the value of a house doubles, right? So in 25 years by 2050, I think we said the average price of a home in the U.S. is $1 million. Okay, so now what do you have $1 million cluster of homes in Norman, Oklahoma that gets ripped through by an EF5 tornado?
Right.
And
But
the insurance has to pay that out now.
on
What
the
is that
flip
going to look
side,
like?
I'm sorry, Montana, Nebraska, Wyoming, Idaho, where those disasters don't happen, but they're not populated, heavily populated. So what's going to happen?
Yet.
They're
Yet.
where everybody, and you know what? Some of my favorite people came out of California, but Californians have to flee somewhere. I mean, they have to go somewhere.
Especially
It's gonna
once they break
overpopulate
off
those
from the
states,
United
right?
States.
So we have a lot of states that have very, very low population. I think in the future, where it's going to skew those numbers, I love playing devil's advocate, is that they're going to migrate to those states, which aren't bad states, because I think Google opened in Oklahoma, right? And I mean, Oklahoma, really? Oklahoma City? What the hell? Cowboys and whatnot are down there. Blake Shelton. They have a basketball team. You know,
All I'm going to
so
say is
it's
shout out to the millennial generation, baby. We're slow in population growth. So millennials, we're helping you save on your insurance.
But there's another good cost, right? So now the other
baby boomers are like pussies.
the third leg of this,
We
talked
populated
about,
this city.
We talked about insurance, right? And then we talked about people moving to and from based on natural disasters and affecting home values and that. Now look at property taxes, right? So one of the big things with property taxes is most areas property taxes are based off of home
Levies.
values, right?
Levies.
Home values.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now it's estimated just in Florida alone that home values in Florida are inflated, overvalued by $50 billion.
Holy crap.
Okay. So what happens if all
Kinda
the
like
insurers
kind of like a former president's evaluation of his estate. But anyway,
what happens if all the insurers, all the insurance companies pull out of Florida? Now everybody's got to finance their own insurance, right? Well, now what happens if they got to finance their own insurance and a Category 5 hits Miami, South Beach? causes $8.2 billion in damage.
That's not a lot
Right.
in that city.
But what's going to happen to property values?
Skyrocket.
No, they're going to go down.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Because people are moving out because
Right.
they can't afford to live there, because they can't afford insurance, and they don't want to rebuild because they would have to come out of pocket $1.2 million on a $900 or 900 square foot condo.
You just got done visiting.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That place is awesome.
I love it. My point is,
People are going to be like,
if people,
all right, I'll pay it.
if
Screw it.
people can't
You
afford,
ever been to West Palm?
But
They're
if
like,
people
screw
can't
it,
afford
I'm
to live,
staying.
if people can't afford to live there, and home values tank,
Right.
property taxes tank, and in areas where property taxes are relied upon to fund things like your fire, your police, your water, all the utilities, municipalities, all that.
You mean the things that respond to these natural disasters?
Yes. What is going to happen? Now, all of a sudden, you're going to have budget constraints. And when something does happen, instead of 10 fire trucks showing up in a community hit by a tornado, it's going to be one. You see what I'm saying?
Just case in point, I got in a car accident in November, and we were right outside Denver. I'm talking legitimate. I could see Denver Police Department
Yep.
from my accident location. And we waited for 2.5 hours, and not one cop came or was able to come because resources are that tight for them, right? Like, and that's what we're going to start experiencing, and that's a great point. And that's why, like, property tax too, and especially here in Colorado, it's a touchy subject, right? We're trying to figure out how we're regulating it. We're paying way too much, paying too little. But
Well, and
again,
Gallagher, all that stuff.
but again, it plays into the whole realm of basically, to tie it up with a bow, what Jameson's talking about is you have all of these factors that are playing in to insurance, home values, and these things that are, again, like I said at the beginning of this episode, out of our control based on things that, in all reality, if we would have gotten a handle on years ago, if we would have made an understanding years ago, we might have been able to stop it. But multiple people have said we're kind of at a teetering point, and we're teetering over the edge right now.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that we're sitting here going, it's on us and we need to. No, it's on us to learn how to deal with it, right? And it's how to control it. One mental health tip for you guys: control what you can control, right? And what we can control are things like how much we pay for our deductibles and how much that costs us. We can pick where we're going to live and why we want to live there based on natural disasters, how it happens, and we can choose how much we can afford based on all these things. And those are the factors that we, all come in culmination for today's topic, which is how climate change and natural disasters affect the housing market.
Yeah,
Right.
I always think it's funny that like we see ourselves as these powerful, the most powerful species on the planet, right? I'm just saying we do.
Yeah,
I want to see you wrestle a
but-
grizzly bear.
But all you got to do,
I just wanna say
all
that.
you got to do is drive down I-25 after it snows like 2 inches,
Oh, yeah.
and just see the graveyard of cars, and you go, all it took was a 2-inch snowstorm, and it just put. It probably cost, I don't know, each car's $30,000, right? So there's 10 of them. There's $300,000 in damage and 18 accidents and a traffic slowed and all this. That's all it took. That's all it took. And it wasn't even a bad snowstorm. And then the next day it's 60 degrees and it melts, right? Imagine coming home, like in Highlands Ranch, and an F1 tornado, which is nothing, destroys your family home of 25 years.
Uproots a tree.
Uproots a tree, throws it into your roof, right? We will always be at the mercy of the climate in general.
Nature.
And whether or not you believe in climate change or you don't, what you do have to believe
doesn't
is
matter.
if the climate stays the same, there's more of us in more areas. You look at Arizona, right? Yeah. Arizona, and this is something that people don't quite understand. From I think it's June until August, Phoenix this year set a record where they had the most consecutive days over 120 degrees, okay? I've got buddies that live in Phoenix. And
If you've never done it, you have to go experience it.
I've
It is
asked them, right?
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous.
No, I've asked them.
Death
And I've-
Valley in the middle of June.
my
let's
God.
talk about that.
I've asked him. And I was like, one of my buddies, Connor, I've known him since high school. I was like, dude, so what? Like, you've lived there now for 3 years. He bought a beautiful house. He's got this great pool, sweet outdoor kitchen. Like, it's dope, right? Like, it's a gorgeous house. And I go, so like during the summer, what do you do? He goes, well, we don't go outside. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, you can't go outside. I go, yeah, but we got a pool. He goes, doesn't matter. At 120 degrees, you can't get into the pool, right? So
Maybe
now you
at
look at it
midnight.
and you say, okay, well, like you talked about, Arizona doesn't get rain. They do have a monsoon season, which is, he sent me videos. Because no trees grow there, it's just like a burn area in Colorado. When it rains, it floods because there's nothing to stop that water. So I guess my point is like, just be aware that when you guys are looking at different areas, take into account everything. Talk to a local expert, right? I talk to people all the time about the snow here. And they go, hey man, we were on the phone for an hour about a new car you wanted to buy.
Yep.
And you go, I don't know, dude, just get this one. It's a rear wheel drive, but I can put snow tires on it, or I can spend like $60 more a month, and I can get an all-wheel drive and throw snow tires on it. And I told him, I go, dude, I've lived here for 17 years. Get an all-wheel drive Subaru, throw snow tires on it.
I am now a full Coloradan, ladies and gentlemen, Subaru Crosstrek owner.
But my point is that like
really
we
cool.
talk about real estate being local, climate's also local, and I believe, and I could be alone on this in a lot of ways, but I believe that climate is going to be a very large factor in people's decisions on where and when and how they either buy homes or construct homes going forward, right?
Absolutely.
I driving down Fort Lauderdale, dude, and I was, I'm a realtor. I'm looking at all the different houses for sale, and all of them, there's a bunch of new constructions that are up there, the big mansions. Every single one of them was being constructed like the Pentagon, just columns of concrete, columns of concrete, and then openings and bridgeways and breezeways so that when they do get these storms, they pass through and whatnot. Is it going to be more expensive? Yes. But is it also more expensive if you're going to live in that area? Does it make sense to pay that kind of money, right? If you're in Colorado and you're doing an insurance claim, or you're partnering with somebody and buying a house, and they say, well, do you want class 3 or class 4 shingles? Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah. Do you want a roof certification for 5 years? Yes. Like, there's different things that you want to do. If you're in Phoenix, do you want to make sure that your AC unit is, I don't know, probably the most high efficient AC unit that you can buy, so that you don't have to replace it every 2 years after you're at 120 degrees for 97 days in a row? Like, there's a lot of things to consider. So just make sure you're working with somebody super local that understands the market. But again, we live here too. Like,
You know what, Jameson? That sounded a lot like a One Rock take.
I know.
Wait, hold on. And I want to add on to that really quick. So instead of like climate change, it's climate pattern, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to tie into where everybody's going, and it's going to affect where you're going to move to. And then on top of that, I love that we have this podcast for, we provide information to you, but it kind of refreshes a lot of things for me. I know this stuff. It's in the back of my mind. If it doesn't need to come up, it doesn't come up.
Yep.
And I need to talk about that more. Why is insurance important?
Yep.
And then instead of like climate change, climate, patterns and control, and then that all ties into what we're talking about today.
Yep.
Because it's going to affect you, your livelihood, where you put your family, and your pocketbook.
You're going to love my One Rock takeaway.
I love it.
And on that note, let's go ahead and move into the One Rock takeaway for today's episode. If you guys aren't regular watchers, on One Rock takeaway is just basically we like to sum up what we talked about, give our kind of last thought on the topic before we move into our bourbon review. And I know I always take it, but you guys talk, and I'm just sitting here stewing on it. So I'm gonna go for the first one.
Go for it.
My One Rock takeaway is don't let your frustration and anger keep you from learning as much as you can about a topic. And what I mean by that is we started talking about this with climate change, and I'm sure a lot of viewers, a lot of people right there leaned in and go, well, what the hell are you going to say, right? But again, notice that thought, the fact that you wanted to fight that we're talking about climate change could stop you from learning everything that we just talked about, which could save you thousands of dollars over time. So my One Rock takeaway is don't let your anger and frustration cloud you on a certain topic, because you never know how that's going to affect you in other areas of your life. All right. I'm done on mine.
Okay.
My One Rock takeaway is, again, whether or not you believe in climate change, Mother Nature will always win.
She don't give a fuck about you.
She does not give a fuck at all. Zero fucks are given by Mother
Ask
Nature.
the dinosaurs.
Okay? So the only thing you can do, that's why I was saying it's funny. We're like, we're the most powerful. Like, no, dude, I'm sorry. If an 80-mile-an-hour breeze hits Castle Rock, people are like, oh my God, it's so windy. I'm gonna go inside. My hair's fucked up. Like, shut the fuck up. It's bad, right? I'm sorry. It just is. So when it comes to
The medicine kicked in.
when it comes to housing, understand that as our population grows, those factors are going to become more and more important in your decisions on where and when and when you want to buy and how much you're going to spend on purchasing a home or selling your home. It is. I'm sorry. Hail's not going away. Nope. Like we can usually count on maybe 3 to 4 big hailstorms a year in Colorado. And our population is growing on average over the last 5 years by like 17%, right? Yep. And we're all in that I-25 corridor in east, which is where all the severe weather happens. Yeah. So it is what it is.
To your point, Jameson, look it up, guys. There have been already 6 extreme extermination events that have happened on our planet that we've proved scientifically.
Yes.
So whether or not you think that you're going to be okay, Mother Nature does not care what you think. It's going to do what it's going to do.
One of the most memorable weather events for me was my dad is a contractor, and he was building houses out in Founders here.
Oh, yeah.
Before Crystal Valley, before all the Meadows wasn't even out here.
Yeah.
I think it was late 80s, early 90s. Hail was as big as a baseball.
Yeah.
Tornado touched down. And I remember hunkering down in one of the basements of these unfinished houses, watching it just devastate.
Dude, side note, but this is actually kind of fun. So my story with when I realized Mother Nature does not give a fuck was back in 1993. So I was like 9, I think.
I was just born.
1995.
Jesus.
Maybe? Yeah. I was like 9 or 10.
I feel old.
Jameson was having life-changing events, and I didn't have
I was hitting puberty.
I was 9 or 10, and we were in
like 13, man.
we were in California, and we had gone to Disneyland or SeaWorld something the day before, and we were back in our hotel in Orange County, and at 3:00 in the morning, I got tossed off of the bed because it was that 6.7 magnitude earthquake that hit Orange County, and I woke up on the floor. My dad's grabbing me, throwing me under the bed. The entire hotel is shaking. And I'm sitting there like, I have no idea what is happening, but this is crazy. Like, shit's falling off the walls. The dresser almost hit my sister because she was on the other side of the bed. My mom grabbed her. It lasted for like maybe 3 minutes, and there was some after tremors or whatever, and then we were freaked out. So my dad worked for Continental at the time, and he booked a flight out of LAX the next morning. And as we're driving, I forget, I think it's Highway 5, I-5, right? The big highway, whatever. So. Well, there was a bridge that was completely collapsed. So there's just the master, and it was a 3-minute event, right? And an entire bridge was collapsed. And then we get on the airplane, and we're taxiing, and the aftershocks start happening as we're on the airplane, and the entire airplane is shaking. And I was like, yeah, there's no fucking way that we should even be living on this planet. Like, this can happen at any given time. And what am I supposed to do?
And you know what, man?
How do I build a earthquake-proof building?
The fact that you were,
you know what I'm saying?
The fact
like,
that you were thinking that at 8 or 9
like,
years old is why we're friends right now.
So my point is, that's why when I say like Mother Nature doesn't care, so control what you control, do your due diligence, understand that there's going to be costs and factors that influence your decisions, and learn as much about it as you can. And the beauty of it is, like Oscar just said, like in my head, right? If I think the Rust Belt and the Bible Belt are going to see an influx of people because of climate change, maybe invest there if you can.
Maybe. Absolutely.
And then just sit on it
100%.
Until all of a sudden those people show up.
Oscar, you want to give us your one?
Look at the bigger picture. The bigger pictures, maybe things that you're not thinking of. Don't just hyper focus on your cost of what your insurance is going to be or where you're living. Look at the bigger picture, what it may or may not do in the future. It has nothing to do with, or maybe does, with political views or it's climate control, climate change, or climate patterns. Look at the bigger picture for yourself. That's it.
Yep. I like it. I think this is just a topic that not only needs to be talked about, but needs to be addressed outside the political realm, especially with what we're seeing now. So,
and
guys,
and with agents like me,
Yeah.
ask the questions because they're in the back of my mind, and I know why I'm doing a certain thing, but maybe question me why I'm doing it.
And thank you guys so much for sticking with us. And here's the cool thing. You know, we started the episode talking about where the podcast has come, right? And how far we've come. And it's funny because, you know, when we first started, Jameson mentioned it earlier, I'd be sitting in the background like, you're on a tangent. Shut the fuck up. You know, and now we've gotten to the point where it's like, yo, if you want to listen, listen. If you don't. You know, our episodes have been going an hour and a half. But again, it's all good information. We're having a good time. I
will say that no political affiliation would have stopped that 6.6
No.
magnitude earthquake in California.
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
No money could have stopped it.
It's outside of politics. It's just understand that we are, in the grand scheme of life.
Life is fragile, baby.
Well, we are very, very, very insignificant. And the only reason we think we're significant is because this stupid computer up in our brain. But realistically, like, another example, Iceland.
We're beautifully insignificant,
in Reykjavik, they had to almost, oh my God.
The medicine kicked
evacuate. Jesus Christ. Evacuate the entire city because fissures were opening up in the middle of the streets because a volcano was erupting.
Yeah.
Do you think anybody...
No.
Oh, well, I should have voted for this person. That would never happen. No, fuck you, okay? I'm sorry. Ask anybody that lived in Pompeii back in 79 AD.
Right.
They were like, man, I
don't know, man. There's
dude, I voted for the wrong emperor and now I'm dead.
There's some people that swear that the elite meet in a forest somewhere with
Just
an
saying, man.
owl statue.
I'm just saying, like,
and they orchestrate all this stuff. You know,
at the end of the day, like if you watch a video,
don't be bashing my cult, baby. All I'm saying, don't be bashing my cult.
like go up to your house.
what
I'm
is
kidding.
it?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Go up to your house. Yeah, go up to your house next time and just go push on it and be like, man, this thing's fucking solid. And then all of a sudden have an F2 tornado come in and be like, my house is gone.
Yep.
I
It's
thought it was
gone.
fucking solid.
No, construct a house. You'll see how
Right.
you're like, really, this is what's holding us up.
Do a final walk with us.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. Well, I think
and,
this
and
is
these,
a-
and these meat bodies that we're in, let a grizzly bear get a hold of you. You'll
Oh,
see how
dude,
badass you are.
I think it's a great time to move into the bourbon review for today's episode. And on today's episode, we're reviewing the Old Forester 1920 Prohibition Style. Jameson, I want to start this review by asking you, how you feeling, man?
I feel like I would love to go back and live in the 1920s.
This medicine is
I'll
delicious.
tell you what, though.
You know what I'm saying?
I've subconsciously been, I can't, no, it's not subconsciously. I've been listening to your voice.
It's gotten
as-
better.
It's gotten
I
better.
know. It has gotten better.
I
You
think
haven't
your
coughed as
sinuses
much?
have cleared.
I have not coughed as much.
Nope.
I have not
Your
sniffed
cough
as
has
much.
been suppressed.
I
Yeah. This is,
I'm just saying.
Case study, baby.
like right. Wait, watch. Listen.
Whoa.
Ooh,
Clear
Wow.
sinus passage.
dude, this isn't.
So,
Did
we might
we-
have to add another factor
Oh
into
my
our
God.
into our bourbon, our
I
rock
didn't-
rating.
None of our opinions are medically. What disclosure do we have
Yeah.
to throw out? Hold on. This is not a.
We have-
Yeah,
we are
the
not-
opinions
we're not-
expressed on the show
We
yeah,
are
the
not
opinions,
doctors.
the medical opinions expressed in the show are. Yeah, no.
are our own and are not.
Subject
Well,
to
the
your
Mayo
order.
Clinic said that the Forester Prohibition is really good for clearing your
Like, yeah.
sinuses.
I'll tell you
Oscar
what.
told me that I had cancer, so I should just drink this.
No,
Oh, okay.
absolutely not.
I will say, like, I did not think. I'm holding JC's glass for all our audio listeners. I just picked up the glass that's been sitting and open. I didn't think that the alcohol could go away more,
It did.
but it did.
Yeah, that doesn't
You got
surprise
it.
me.
Yeah.
That
Take
doesn't
it.
surprise me.
Take it. Put a nose in there.
I'm not taking that nose after that nose has been in there.
Yeah.
You have
No,
to-
I'm cured. We just
Oh, you're
discussed
cured.
this.
Oh, okay.
I'm cured.
But I mean,
mine.
just the way that that opened, like it, you get way more of that fruity.
Yes.
That fruity tone.
And as far as the taste, I've held this for a bit. The darker tones of the chocolate kind of come through.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
also how I can tell I've been better is my taste buds have opened up.
Nice.
Like-
we're gonna Old Forester. We're gonna put
Jesus
together a reel for you.
I need like
You might have
can
to
use-
couple up with Pfizer after this.
Yeah.
I'm
it's
just
like
saying.
we got dude. It has to be one of those. We have to do it. You know what we should do? That would actually be super fucking funny. Is do one of those corny medical commercials.
Yeah. Pfizer commercials?
Where it's like not the fucking I got into my A1C like that chick, but something where
Yes.
it's like it shows me with like an overly red nose and like sneezing and then like I roll over and my wife's like, oh my god, you need to go to sleep. I can't sleep because you're snoring. And then she just takes out that,
Yep.
pours me a shot. I take it and then just. And then birds fly out in the background.
Or even crazier, same scenario, but out of the closet, I come out and like Old Forester.
Yes.
Boom.
Or even
And then
you
you're
know
like-
what? Even better, Oscar.
We're making ads.
Even better. Somebody else comes out and offers me like goes to give me like NyQuil and you just slap
smack
it out
it.
of their hand
Here's
and
some
then
Old
you just
Forester.
go, here's Old Forester. And then all you gotta do is zoom in the bottle, medical
Forester.
whiskey.
Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
wait, what? And then I take
Exactly.
it and all of a sudden like my kid jumps up and she gives me a hug. I love you, Dad. Like
Hey, tried and true.
Hire us
100
for
years.
all of your
I
marketing
do that.
needs.
My God, I think that would be absolutely genius.
And we got that on
man.
film. God
That would
damn
be
it.
so genius. And then I go back and I shoot a buffalo.
Oh,
Now we're just
Jesus.
we're getting to Old Spice levels of ridiculous when it comes to commercials.
wearing a
this.
raccoon
Look at the
hat.
whiskey. Look at
Man,
me. Look at the whiskey. Look
PETA's
at
gonna
me.
come after us now. Shit.
That's great. Well, I mean, so just to get back to the whiskey of it all.
We've been watching Beauty and the Beast, and my kids have been and listening to that Gaston song, and
Yeah.
he's like, every lunch is covered in hair, and like all of my decorations and antlers.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do,
Right?
That's part of the
Exactly.
commercial.
I'll go shirtless and like Charlie can like Photoshop my chest hair growing as my sinuses.
Your
clear.
new name is
Old
Gaston.
Forester. God,
Oh,
you guys,
man.
Old Forester, you're missing
Reach out to
man.
us. Reach out
Goddamn.
to us.
Love it.
No, but to get
$1 billion ideas.
to hone it back into the whiskey. Honestly, as it opened, the sweeter notes definitely came out a little bit more.
Yeah.
In the flavor and on the nose. Definitely on the sip though, it's that letting it open, that ethanol is gone.
Yeah.
Like legitimately no burn in it.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Open up.
And I could definitely see how if during the Prohibition era, if you just had a bottle of this sitting, whether it be in a decanter in a bottle or a little alcohol bottle, like the longer you had this bottle that was open, the easier it would be to take as a medicinal, piece, medicine, whatever. But the flavor in general.
I wonder if that had anything to play with the proof, the higher proof. So it opened up and maybe the proof went down, so it was still effective.
But
maybe
just just off the bat, no way that this is 115 proof.
Agreed. Yeah,
Like,
this is
no
the
way.
smoothest 115.
If I could say something, it's a fun drink.
Yes,
really
absolutely.
is.
Like
It's a fun drink because it's enjoyable. Mm-hmm. It's a job done.
This
And
would make
it's
one hell
a
of
fun drink.
one hell of a Manhattan.
I feel like this. I'm going to go back to the campfire thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
This would make such a good campfire bourbon because nobody would see it coming.
Yeah.
And all of a
Absolutely
sudden, after like a couple pulls, everybody's having a good time. Like, wait a second, like
This
what
medicine
just
kicked
happened?
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You
And,
put it on,
and
you put it
again,
on ice.
we've
or
been-
a couple drops of water. I don't even think it needs it. but-
It doesn't need it, but I do think that putting this on the rocks would give it.
it would help open it faster.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think we've been drinking a lot of these this high proof bourbon for a while.
Well, no,
and
actually,
we left off
I'm
on
curious
the low one.
because this might be
the cedar comes through so much on the nose now.
this might be the highest. Is this the highest proof bourbon we've had?
No,
No.
115 has not been the highest. I think we
We
did
do
one higher than
do we
this.
do a 118 maybe?
118,
No,
I think.
I
was
want to
it.
say 120.
120, I think was the highest.
What was
that
it?
we did?
Do you remember?
I can't remember.
I don't.
We need a fucking.
But this is for the proof.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a fun drink. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
No,
just,
that's what
I-
I'm
like,
saying is
it's complex,
if I remember
but not
correctly,
complex too much.
the one that we did that was high proof, we're like, this is
Yeah.
this
Fire.
hits you.
Yeah.
It's gasoline.
And
No, I think barrel proof. No, barrel proof
No,
is not
barrel's like
150.
So,
105.
all right. So,
Yeah.
Oscar, now before we give our ratings, if you guys watch the show or listen to the show regularly, like one thing that we play into our ratings pretty heavily is the cost
Price.
of the bottle. So, Oscar, how much does this one run?
I bought it at Crystal Valley, so
Okay.
their prices are sometimes good, sometimes
I
not.
just like to support my boys over there.
Me too. So I stopped going to the other one that's
Yep.
here because we know him.
Yep.
So I stopped there. 165. Or I mean 165. 65. Sorry, I was
I was gonna say, damn.
I was like,
no.
Jesus.
no 65
Thank you,
bucks.
sir, for
Yeah.
donning
Wow,
us with
here, I'm
this
gonna
bottle.
No, no,
pour
no.
this back in.
No, sorry.
Okay.
I kind of went on tangent.
1,650
$65.
pesos.
Okay, so just
$65.
for everybody, for all the listeners, at 65, this one is hand in hand with Dexter, which Dexter was, and again, we might have to redo an episode on Dexter.
But
just
Dexter
so,
was 90.
I still haven't had Dexter.
yes.
Dexter's
But
90.
that, I was gonna say just so Oscar could have, we might have to redo it.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, no. We'll do it this way. We'll do the weeded
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
weeded 74.
Okay,
So
perfect.
it'd be in line with the old elk weeded.
Perfect. Okay, but
I'll pick that up
I
next
mean,
week.
I personally like this. Obviously, when I saw 115, it was I was a little scared, because the higher
I was
proofs-
scared until I smelled it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I was like,
when we,
you know what I mean?
right when I poured it, I was blown
Yeah.
away. But at the same time, obviously you see 115 proof, and something else that I want to touch on too, because a lot of the time, I've touched on it a couple times throughout our reviews, but the body feel, the feeling of this is not a dirty 115 proof. Like
No.
this is 100%.
It's a classy 115.
Yeah, like you
It's
can
a-
tell that
yeah,
you
it's
can
a-
tell that this mash bill was made to be able to function when you drink it.
It's gonna get the job done, but it's gonna have some class and
Yeah.
some complexity.
Like
for it.
for me, I definitely feel it.
It's
in,
an eloquent 115.
yeah, absolutely. So it's like it's not like something that you're gonna get. It's over 100 plus that you're like, oh, I'm ready to drink it.
Yeah.
No, it's like I feel good. Like I feel elevated. I definitely 100%. I can tell this.
Was it? What did we have last week?
The
Rye.
the blended straight.
Okay.
Right.
Whiskey.
So my complaint on that one was if that was at 100 proof, it would have been a really good whiskey.
Yes.
Right. This is what that should have been.
Yes.
I think because the flavor profile is similar.
Yep.
Because they used those sweeter wheats from Mississippi or wherever it was, the pastry wheats, and our complaint was it just didn't have enough complexity and
Yeah.
kick
Yeah,
because it was only an 80 proof. Even though it was aged 6 years, right? So they distilled it down too much. And our complaint was, man, if this was over 100 proof, this would be a really good bourbon.
Yeah.
well,
I think like this, to me, gives the edge that I like when I drink a bourbon, I'm like you, Oscar, right? When I drink a bourbon, I want to know
I'm drinking
that
bourbon.
I'm drinking bourbon.
Right.
But I also want to enjoy it. I want to choke it down.
Right.
Right. And I think this is a phenomenal balance. I think this appeals to both sides of the spectrum. Like if I'm a newer bourbon drinker, but I want to get into something that's higher proof, I think this is great. I'd probably have to put it on the rocks to mellow it down a little bit.
Yes,
right?
if you're new to bourbon and you're drinking this, put it on
the rocks to mellow it down a little bit.
Put it on the rocks.
If I am a experienced bourbon drinker, then and I want to sip this neat and enjoy the complexities and have it open up over the course of a couple hours, this does this for me. And it's not a buzzkill. Like
No.
it's 115 proof. So it's 58%.
It's good.
And for me, when I say it's a fun bourbon, I think it just takes me back to the memories that this is one of the bottles that Gabe and I would open up, pop the cork, and we wouldn't put it back until the drinking was done.
So JC and I did that with Smoke Wagon.
Yeah.
Same thing, right?
And
that was
this
just
is-
kind of
this
our
is-
bourbon that anytime we could buy it, I'd go over to his basement and we'd pop that thing. We'd start playing FIFA or Call of Duty or whatever.
Yep.
And we'd just drink it and we'd have a great time. We'd finish the bottle and get yelled at by the wives afterward.
Yeah.
But we had a great time. And it wasn't like a sloppy
usually
type of
the-
thing.
Yes.
It was just like we enjoyed drinking it
Yeah,
so much.
This isn't the bourbon that's going to jack you up.
No.
You're going to go downtown and act a fool. You're going to drink this.
Don't drink this for Rocky's opening weekend.
No.
Absolutely not. You're going to appreciate this.
We don't talk about Rockies over
No.
the weekend anymore.
I thought we had
Yeah, that was
snuffed that.
Fight Club. Fight Club.
No, so I think this bourbon gives you a lot.
Yes,
It does.
For the price, it gives
All right.
you a lot.
So on that note, let's go ahead and give our rock ratings. And guys, as always, our rock rating is on a scale of 1 to 10. And the way that we rate this is the better the bourbon, the closer it is to 1. The more rocks you want to put in it, the more you need it watered down to drink it and enjoy it. More additives like cola you need to put in, the closer it is to 10. So yeah, I'm gonna sit back because I've given the last couple straight up. I want to
I'll
hear
give
what you
mine.
guys.
Mine's a bit skewed just because I have history with this bottle, but I'm gonna give it a 2. It's
A 2?
It's my wheelhouse.
Okay.
I've had it in the past. I have really fond memories with
That
this.
is the highest rating that you've given a bourbon on the podcast.
And again, I think it's tied to a lot of the memories that I've had with this bottle.
Which
But-
I think is
But I think, but again, I think
that's
that's
the purpose of drinking bourbon, by the way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it's-
Share it with your buddies. Have a good
yeah,
time.
like you don't do the same with vodka. It's not like you know what? I'm gonna rate McCormick's a 1.5 because I had the best memories of McCormick's at CU with all my
No.
buddies.
But
You know what I'm saying?
what's the alcohol that everybody has something to say?
Fireball.
Tequila.
Oh.
Right? Oh, I can't have tequila. Last time I had tequila, I was gutter face down in the gutter, and
Yeah, that's why I don't drink Cuervo. I
Right.
can't.
Bourbon.
I love tequila.
Bourbon
I
has.
love
That
It has
it's
its
built.
place.
It's built to
Yeah.
make memories.
I
That's what
have
it is.
really good memories with this bourbon.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's my wheelhouse. It's complex. The drinkability. There's very, very little that I have to say that's bad about this one. But it's reserved because of the memories. The
right.
memories has a lot to do with it, regardless of the
Yeah.
price.
JMO.
Listen, I've had a lot of experience with different cold medicines. This is
Robitussin?
probably the best Robitussin bottle I've had in my life.
Yeah.
So it's good. If they could sell this at Walgreens, whew.
Way out here, baby.
Profit margins.
No, dude, this is tough for me because I think my highest rated bourbon has been Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered, which is I think that's 115.
That's one of my tops too, though.
And I think I rated that at 2.5. And Dexter, I rated at 2.5. That was 90.
Yeah.
So less. I don't know, man. I almost.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've reserved the one for that unicorn bottle, right? And I don't know that we'll ever
my
get it.
struggle though is this is the first bottle we've had that I will put up against Dexter and Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered.
I agree.
And I rated them both at 2.5. I'm just struggling because I'm like, is it because it's medicinal that I want to go a little bit higher?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I almost want to put this, and this would make it my highest rated bottle on this podcast at like a 2.3. Especially because the other piece of this that I'm taking into account is at 65, it's the same price as Dexter, but it's higher proof. It's the same proof as Uncut Unfiltered, but it's like $15 cheaper.
At a liquor store that's known to be.
So I'm gonna go 2.3.
You know,
I'm gonna
I
go 2.3.
thank you, gentlemen.
Yep, 2.3.
Because I was struggling.
Yep.
I was struggling, and no, I mean, if I'll tell you what, if I would have read the notes before
I do
drinking
need
it,
to drink this when I'm not sick.
yes, But
because I'm also like, this is like me
You're
being
limited
like, oh
on
my
flavor.
God, I just gave you the Fountain of Youth. How does it taste? And it actually works. I'm like, this is the greatest fucking on the planet.
Come back, I'll give it a 3.5.
I'm right there with the Jameson, and in the fact that I try and be. Obviously, as we get down and below 3s, all of us are like, oh, I don't know about rating this. But
I know.
Oscar, like, out of the gate, man, picking this one, bringing it in, like, as somebody who has never tried almost any Old Forester, like, on purpose, and to have this bottle that is tried and true before, during, and after the Prohibition, like, based on the story, based on the notes, based on the build. And again, I want to find this mash bill because the complexity and the levels of flavor in this bourbon blew me away, hands down. And, even just from the first sip.
The color.
The color, exactly. I'm right there with Jameson. I'm gonna give it a 2.3 on this one. 100. Yeah, it's the.
I think
just overall, like.
I think my this is.
Yeah.
They did a great. I've always looked for a bourbon that's high proof but can balance complexity and flavor.
Yes, and they did.
And they, I think, have done the best job.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
I've always been the advocate of good quality at a reasonable price, and I think at $65 is reasonable.
No, absolutely.
It's
Especially with
really-
Dexter being right
really
there
good.
at 80. Like, I think, this is 100%.
What did you say it had to be? What less corn?
51%. We have to be 51% or more corn
bourbon.
to be bourbon.
Okay, so I found the mash bill.
Okay.
What do you think it is? Don't look.
Based on the taste, I'm 45.
Wait, what?
45%?
No.
No, it's higher. So it is a
Corn.
bourbon.
It is a bourbon.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
It's
So
like
it could be
53.
No.
No.
And
Really?
this is going to make a hell of a lot of sense
65.
based on the profiles that we're thinking.
65.
Uh-uh.
I don't know.
Go.
Give it to me.
Go.
72.
No
Holy
shit.
And it tastes delicious for that.
72 corn, 18 rye, 10% malted barley.
Oh, but the 10% malted barley, that's where the sweetness comes from.
Yes.
That is a beautiful marry of a high corn mash with
Malted
High
that
barley.
corn mash is like.
Yep.
72.
This is quite the opposite of that.
72.
Wow. This deserves
Right?
a 2.3. This
Yep.
deserves the high rating.
72%
100%.
corn,
Yep.
18% rye,
Well done.
10% malted barley.
Well
Hell yeah.
done.
That's incredible.
Covet that.
Told you that.
recipe.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Covet
that
that
makes
recipe
a lot of sense.
because that is
Because
delicious.
that corn, that corn, that's where the burn comes from.
Yep.
But that malted
Malted
barley
that's
is
where the
just
sweet-
enough.
Wow.
And that rye kind of brings it
It
in.
rolls it out. That's where you get that sit on the back of the tongue. Wow. Whew. Okay. Well, as you guys have seen it, episode 48 of Real Estate Served on the Rocks, we have our highest rated bourbon at 2.3, and it is Old Forester 1920 Prohibition
Not
style.
crazy expensive either.
Not crazy expensive. It just goes to say you can enjoy bourbon and have fine bourbon without spending $200 on a bottle of fucking Blanton's because it has a horse on the top.
Whoa, I've never spent over $70 on blends.
Luckily, a lot of people are
And I
spending
won't.
150 plus.
And I won't.
Right? But guys, on that note, thank you guys so much for
Thank you.
not only being with us on this episode, but supporting us, getting us over 1,000 downloads and multiple hours of views and view time on YouTube. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you, and we love doing this for you weekly. This is great for us. We learn, we grow. Remember, you can
grow.
always.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can always reach out to us at resotr@themilehighperspective.com or give us a ring.
303-578-0263.
Check us out on YouTube, guys. Like, follow, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you want us to try.
Check out our shorts.
check out everything.
All of
We're gonna really try and bolster in 2024.
Yep.
It's gonna be the year.
Big
of,
year, baby.
Big year. Big year
year.
for Real Estate Served on the Rocks. So
I'm going to be way more involved.
on that note, guys, cheers. Thank you so much
you.
for
Cheers.
joining us. We'll catch you later.